I'm Justin Chu, and we're recording this during the middle of our 2020 Prosperity Summit. So we've got a lot of great stuff happening right now, but we want to take a moment to talk with Rachel Houston with United Way of the River Cities and Katy Schultz with Prepare and Prosper. And we're going to take this time to talk a little bit about planning, because filing season's coming right around the corner, whether we like it or not. So I want to hear a little bit from you two and just think about the first question is what's different or what's similar from this season from years past? And I'll let either one of you take that one.
Well, I did make notes about this one particular question. And I think what I think is similar is that I feel like for the past 3 or 4 years, we have been dealing with change. So much change in the process between software and tax law and shutdowns and all kinds of things. So it's like I'm used to dealing with change, but I'm used to dealing with anticipating change to the sort of the mechanics of what we're doing, and not such a fundamental change in as to how we're going to do it. You know, the what keeps changing, but now the how has changed. And I think for us, that has been what has been most difficult, is like that big fundamental change that we were, 90% of what we do, we can't do the way we did. That's painful to say the least. So that's my answer for that one.
Yeah, I'll jump in and emphasize one of the things that Rachel said, like the concept of we're used to change, right? And I thought about this will be my 9th tax season. And so I was thinking, I was like, wow, like we changed software, the ACA came into play, like Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, like short notice surprise. There have been so many big changes during the period of time when I first started. Everyone was like, some stuff changes in tax law every year, but you kind of just take it in stride. And then I've had a lot of surprises since I started this job. But nothing quite matches up with what we are planning for right now. And I think that VITA sites across the country, VITA TCE sites, we're all looking at a whole lot of uncertainty, more uncertainty than usual, just like the rest of the world. But the way that plays out specifically in the VITA world is looking at a shift to a model, right? And so we're used to having paper-based, we're used to having in-person. In fact, that's been the IRS's preferred mode for us to operate in, is through a traditional VITA model where we're seeing people face-to-face. And now with I think for lots of reasons, very little support from the IRS, we are all navigating within our own little circles. We're all working to solve the same problem independently, which is how can we make this work for our volunteers, for our customers, and for our organizations. And it's hard.
It's very hard. Yeah, oh shoot, I had something that just dissolved my brain. Oh yes, when I think the challenge that, has sort of stuck in my head is that everybody, we're all doing the similar things, but with a slightly different set of tools and a different group of people. And I know everybody's relationship manager takes, a different approach to how they see us doing our work. And we have a lovely relationship manager, but he is also incredibly by the book, old school, narrow definition, where a site is a site in a building with chairs and people. And, we had trouble last year because one of our sites that we worked really hard to finally get up and going was in an industrial trailer, and that trailer left. It went away.
There's no trailer.
There's no trailer. The building was gone, and that he could not wrap his brain around. Well, that means the EFIN's gone. And we're like, no, the people and the place, they just moved over here. It's the same thing, just from here to here. And I'm thinking, this is going to break him because, now we're looking at a situation where, we are having to pivot and look at how can we take ourselves out to the people so that we can be, more reactive to the needs of our clients that have limited transportation opportunities. We serve very rural, convoluted populations in West Virginia here. And it's, our territory is about the size of Delaware. and it's all mountains and valleys and people. There is no public transportation. There's very limited internet access. So, we're trying to figure out how do we switch it up so that we can, be more where the people are. I think dealing with the IRS side is going to be interesting, and they're just going to have to be understanding.
I want to add one thing to this, and I think, like, this is me speaking with my Taxpayer Opportunity Network hat on, is just thinking about how this impacts different sites differently. So at Prepare and Prosper, we're a fairly large site, we're an urban site, so we're facing this challenge differently. We're also an organization that focuses a lot on VITA. It's one of our core programs, one of a small number of programs, and it's core to us. So we have planning time dedicated to this. We have 550 volunteers that we're preparing to launch into this, right? And we need to train these people, and we need to make sure that they're all offering a consistent level of service and that they're all feeling supported when they've never done this before either. Whereas a smaller program is looking at this very differently. They might not be thinking about it until this week, or maybe next week, or the week after, or November. And so this is the limit of a small program that might be able to be a little bit more nimble in saying I have volunteers that can do that, or I don't have volunteers that can do that, but I can find 2 people that can. I think that the challenges are very real on both sides of that in all areas and facets of VITA.
I would definitely agree.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rachel. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say we definitely fall on the smaller end of the spectrum. We do under 2,500 returns a year across 10 locations across 4 counties. And so it's a lot of running around, trying to meet people where they are, and trying to figure out a new way to do that. This year has been just going to be a challenge.
Yeah, speaking of challenges, I think that you guys have talked a lot about, sort of your programs and differing sizes, but I'm curious to think about, you guys talked about the IRS side, which is obviously really valuable and insightful and difficult in its own way. However, I was curious about any other, stakeholders that you guys have in the process, right? Any partners, your volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
How have you guys spent that moment sort of integrating them and incorporating them into your planning?
Yeah, I think that's such a critical part of what you're doing, is getting buy-in and bringing people whose decision making and understanding of the shifts in your program, bringing those folks along. So we've been at the planning bit of this, I feel since March. Just thinking about how we could pivot for summer and fall, and looking forward to tax season with that, and while we were planning our alternative options for summer fall. But really trying to poll our volunteers regularly, get in touch with them, keep them up to date, even if it was kind of an uncertain idea where it was this is what we're thinking right now. Okay, maybe next month it might be we're thinking this right now. How do you want to be involved? Can you be involved? And then also getting feedback both informally while we were rolling out different solutions this summer with our customers, but also a little bit more formally, we sent out a survey to our customers. And we work with partner sites, as many locations do, working with them to figure out what is their COVID procedure as an organization. Are they letting people into the building? Are their staff working from home, or are their staff working at the office? And how are their programs evolved? Because we work with a lot of government agencies and nonprofits in our area that have similar missions, similar customer base, and are they operating their programs even is a huge question. Some of them are and some of them aren't. So being able to bring more people into their building is still a question mark. And so working with a lot of different stakeholders who sometimes have competing opinions or ideas about how to roll things out has definitely added another layer to the complications with the planning for this. Another nuance, right? VITA is nothing if not nuance.
No, I agree. We, being on a smaller scale, I think for us, some of the stakeholder interactions and plannings are slightly less complicated because we just don't have as many people involved. We still have questions around where people are allowed to be. I mean, that is an evolving issue that can change at any moment. And so we kind of have decided to approach this that we are going to plan the most conservative approach, which is that we are going to keep most people out of most places most of the time. And then that way, if at some point we can relax that, it's easier to relax something than to try to pull people out of a building. So, we are planning for a more conservative approach that weighs very heavily on doing things virtually and doing things through drop-off. And so we're in the process right now of working through those how that will work with our stakeholders and our volunteers, and figuring out where can people, who's comfortable where. And one of the things I'm really excited about is that several of our site coordinators are participating in the virtual summit this week. So they are getting the same information that our VITA program coordinator is getting at the same time. And I think that will be really helpful. Everybody will be in the same headspace, going into the nuts and bolts side of training. And the other stakeholder is the collective of taxpayers. And so one of the things that we are going to be very mindful of is the way we market the program at the very beginning. So there isn't confusion about, well, I always do it this way. They're going to know from the moment that they start interacting with us and our call center that does the appointments and everybody, that things are different this year, and that's just the way it has to be. I'm sorry. So I think being very consistent at the beginning with that and keeping expectations at a certain level is going to be very important to prevent confusion and upset. It'll happen.
100% agree on the early communication is so necessary. And we have a lovely outreach coordinator who has been planning all the ways that he wants to communicate with our customer base. And I think this is another area of planning, right? Is like, how much of this can go virtual? How much of it should go virtual? How many people are we missing in the middle if we do? Like Rachel, you said something that started my brain thinking about the concept of the digital divide, which is something that's come up so often in our planning so far. Just making sure that we're not dropping people out of our process en masse simply because they can't access something, or on the marketing side, that we're not confusing the heck out of a bunch of people because we weren't able to reach them with our early communications.
We have been relying really heavily on data and mapping, and literally looking to see where are people, like physically, where in geographic space are they, and what sites were they going to, and how far were they driving, and how old are they? And so like really digging deeply into the data set of who our people are. So that way, when we do go to make changes, we can make them in the right places for the right people. And, we're looking at potentially bringing on partners that are going to be involved in just an intake capacity to provide that one-on-one technology assistance from the very beginning. And so even if it is a virtual or a drop-off, there's still a human there to talk to. We are looking at a new partnership with a bank that offers a drive-through service. So we may be able to use them, and they've just moved into our area, but they're across the state. So they're interested in doing this for the entire state of West Virginia. I am not myself. I mean, we're going to concentrate on our area in some ways, but having them as a partner will be really helpful and provide consistency across the state for marketing purposes, because we are going to be doing some statewide stuff. But, being able to just look at weird solutions, I think, is another thing that we're going to have to do. All unusual partnerships and strange solutions.
Yeah, I mean, the partnerships thing is really key to all of this, right? I think a lot of the stuff that we've talked about here nationally, for better or worse, is all, virtual this, virtual that, like taking a selfie with your ID. But I don't know personally how much that covers. And hearing your perspectives as well as perspectives of others that I've talked to, throughout our field, all across the country, it's just not as feasible to get everyone in all at the same time. So really setting those expectations is valuable not only for your clients but your staff and building out those new models. I think I have one last question for you guys, and then I'll let you go. In your opinion, what is sort of one thing or one series of things that you want other sites and site coordinators to know as they're starting to plan for this next filing season?
Download a really good mindfulness app and have it ready to go and share it with your volunteers. Because if there's one thing that's going to happen, and it's going to be that there's continuous confusion and change, and we have to just be prepared for that. Just anticipate that something weird is going to happen, and you're going to have to pivot, and we have to be nimble, and you have to give yourself space to make mistakes, and admit that this is not working as well as we had hoped. That's okay. We're going to try again. We can only do what we can do. So that is our mantra. We can only do what we can do and do no harm.
Yeah, and I think what I would throw out there is keep in touch with other sites. Like use Tax Roundtable, use your other VITA sites in your area, pick up the phone, call someone. I know when we get into our planning modes, a lot of times we're a little bit tunnel vision. We're just moving forward with our own programs. But the more we share, the better off our whole field is going to be. So like if you found a super slick way to get Zoom on the cheap, like let the world know. Or if you found a great platform for doing volunteer background checks, if you found, share with the world what's happening with your program. You might have found a really unique solution to something that everyone else has been trying to solve too. So thanks everyone for your community love.
Yes, I talk about the great tax hive mind. It's amazing. You just throw out a problem and solutions just bounce right back. It's great.
Yeah, I think that's one sort of great tip is just talk to each other. I don't envision that any of us would have thought that we would be here, started January or even December last year. So stay open, stay available to all forms of communication, and let your thoughts run wild. I think that drive-through drop-off is not something that we'd considered, but now it's just everywhere. Rachel, you're doing it. We have a whole session on it coming up in a few hours at the time of taping. So we've got a lot of stuff happening. I want to thank both of you guys for hopping on. Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Katy, for coming to join us. This has been one edition of the Knights of the Tax Roundtable, and we're going to keep going with this. So I hope you enjoy, and talk to you later.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.